Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I think I kind of sort of got it figured out. Definitely still working on it, and we'll see what goes from there because I'm trying to maximize this thing to make it bigger. But you all can see, y'all can see the screen share and everything. That's good. Okay, great, great, great. Well, welcome. I'm excited to be here with you all on this afternoon to talk about growing our churches. And one of the things that I'm always passionate about is helping our young people along the way, and also graciously, hear me, graciously transitioning some of our senior saints from positions to hand them down to others. And one of the things we always have to realize is we don't just push people out of positions. I think one of the most effective ways to do it is to mentor people. And we have to be able to mentor people into the right position. The biggest problem and issue is sometimes some people don't want to be mentored into positions. So this is a training program to strengthen mentorship in our local churches from generation to generation. And one of the things I do before you try anything, listen to them. How pastors can help mentor the next generation. And anytime we're doing that, we're looking toward to mentoring our next generation. There are some key components that we have to do. Oh my goodness. So while we're doing that, and I would freeze up in the middle of it, but it's okay. Y'all still with me? Y'all still can see everything? Y'all good? No. Okay, good. So right now, y'all should be seeing my theoretical foundations in psychology. Are y'all looking at that right now? Okay. Okay, so obviously it's not working like where I want it to, but some things that we have to do when we're mentoring people for the next generation, for people to take position, we have to address it in a careful manner. But the truth of the matter is it needs to be addressed. The biggest issues within our church, and I'm speaking within the AME Zion Church, the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, is that there is nothing in place to train people for the next position and or title. The only thing that's somewhat in place is the ministers. That is, you have district studies, you have conference studies, and then it leads you into the position where after your ordination that you can possibly pastor a church. Well, it works out well if you have a good mentor. The flaw in that system is the itineracy. When you have the itineracy, you may start off a year in your ministry, or you may start off with your calling, and you may have a great pastor, a great leader, a great mentor, and then he or she may be transferred or moved to another assignment, another church. Well, you don't necessarily pack your bags and go wherever he or she goes. You, as a young budding minister, have to stay within that local church setting. And then you'll have a whole different mentor or leader in your congregation where their leadership style may be different, their thought process may be different, but you have to listen and go by what they say. Oftentimes it can happen where you may get a bad mentor and it will send you spiraling down. You may receive burnout in ministry. You may want to just walk away from the ministry, or in some cases, some ministers just leave and go find another church to be a part of, to be associated with. Or you may end up getting a great mentor who can help galvanize you, to encourage you to do great things in ministry. Myself, I had a lot of great mentors around me when I was coming up in ministry. A great father in ministry, Dr. T. Anthony Spearman, who helped me along the way. Also, Reverend Georgie McCain II, those who were very integral parts. And my good friend, gone to glory, Reverend Dr. Kenneth Quentin James, gave me a lot of leadership as far as doing the work in ministry the right way. Well, one of the issues we have now is that outside of that, those that may know or may not know who has been a part of a church, or at least affiliated with a church of an Amy Zion church, where it seemed as if nothing changed. The exact same people on the trustee board, the exact same individuals on the steward board, missionaries holding positions forever, directors of Christian education and different district offices are in the same positions at all times. And there's nothing in place for anyone to take the mantle if something happens to them. Because oftentimes when that individual who has been in position for many, many, many years, either God calls them to glory, or they decide to step down, then the local church setting finds itself doing two things. One, scrambling to find someone else to put in that position, or putting someone else in a position who possibly was about the same age as they were. Okay, you don't have to say nothing, just nod your head a little bit, just nod your head, move around. And that is a fallacy within the life of our church. And what happens, a lot of our young people and young adults end up getting pushed away from the church because they're not giving opportunities to do ministry. Like me, when I was coming up, I am 45 years old, actually turned 46 now, 45 years old. How many of us have ever been in the life of your church and you've heard these words? The young people you are the future of the church. You are the future. But the issue is, when you say future, is how long before the future comes into fruition. Some people like to decide that the future means 50 years down the road before you can hold a position or a title in the church to do church work. Young adults and young people are looking to do ministry. No disrespect to any of them, but nobody really is concerned about a missionary tea, a rainbow tea, a super Saturday or second Saturday meeting with the missionaries. They're worried about doing ministry. And as they do ministry, if there is a title that goes with it, we need to equip people with those titles and positions. Amen, somebody. Well, mentorship is less about the behaviors and more about creating an environment where people are motivated to achieve goals to show high productivity. Don't miss it. A mentorship is less about behaviors and more about creating an environment where people are motivated to achieve goals and high levels of productivity. The problem in the life of the church, especially in the Amy Zion church at times, it seems as if that mentorship is not there, and ministry is motivated by how much money you can bring to annual conference. Did you make your assessments for the checkup meeting? Did you pay the offering that was asked, $100 or $200? Nothing in place as far as mentoring people to be motivated to achieve goals at a high level of productivity. Either the mentor has the right environment to work in, or he or she creates the environment to do the work. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There is absolutely no perfect church out there. As pastors and lay people, no church is perfect. If you find a perfect church, do not join. I guarantee you, once you join a perfect church, you're going to mess it up. So you have to create the environment to work in that best suits the need to galvanize individuals to do the work in ministry and mentor people coming behind you or behind other individuals to do the work. psychologically weak and dependent people, the mentor will need to focus on developing trust of the mentees. Because oftentimes you have individuals who believe they really know everything. You can't tell them anything about missionaries. You can't tell them anything about evangelism. Can't tell them anything about Christian education. Can't tell them anything about preaching or teaching. But when you have a good mentor, that is someone who you can take constructive criticism at all times and all places. You have to be willing to accept constructive criticism, because when you're able to do that, you indeed can grow, and you can help other individuals bring in a new generation. Don't miss it. You'll be able to help other individuals help people to bring in a new generation. Look, I'm Amy Zion, born, bred Amy Zion all my life. Some people love to say I've been Zion bred, be Zion dead, all that good stuff. Okay. The Amy Zion Church was founded in 1796. With all its ministers and all the work that what you're doing, we need something that can lead, guide, and mentor people in the right position at the right time. Not about favoritism, not about politics, not about who pays the most money, not because your grandma was the missionary, you need to be a missionary, or anything like that. It's just the fact of the matter, are you mentoring people? Who are you mentoring? That is the question I have for you all right now who are participating, who are watching with me. Ask yourself the question, who are you mentoring? If right now, if you have an appointment, if you have an assignment, if you have a ministry that you are over at your local church setting, who do you have? I don't want you to name the person, but is there anybody that right now, if you got sick, you could tap and say, here's the position, pastor, here's the person you should give this to, besides an elder, bishop, here's the person who can take this up. I have mentored them. They are good to go because they are ready, because you have trained them the way they need to be trained to do the work the right way. Okay. Now, I want you a great example for this. Old Testament. I love the Old Testament. I know you all do too. Proverbs 4. Proverbs 4. Let me read for you Proverbs 4, verse 1 through 7, and just hear the words of Proverbs chapter 4. And if you get a chance, definitely read it on your own. I'm just going to read those few verses because there's some key things I want you to look at. Proverbs chapter 4. Here we go. Take this out. Proverbs 4. Number 1. Hear, you children, the instruction of a father, and attend to no understanding. For I give good doctrine, forsake not the law. For I was my father's son, tender and on the beloved sight of my mother. He taught me also, said unto me, let thy heart retain my words, keep my commandments and live. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not. Neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom with all thy getting. Get understanding. Oh man, don't miss that. And of course, NIV tells us to pay attention. Some key words I want you to look at that is listen, instruction, pay attention, understand, don't forget, and teaching. Don't miss that. Not one time that they ever talk about money. Doesn't say anything about money. Doesn't say anything about title. Doesn't say that you have to be a member of a church for 35 to 40 years before you get up and talk. Doesn't say your name have to be on a pew. Doesn't say you have to donate and buy anything for the church. Doesn't say that you have to get your robes dedicated. Does not say that you have to host a tea or anything of that nature. It says to listen, instruction, pay attention, understand, don't forget, and always teaching. When those things are in place, that means that we are lining things up for the individual coming behind us. Oh, and I love it. The reason why you have to love this, everyone that's watching, is because I love the references. Says her Her is the wisdom. Her is the understanding. Her is the love. That is where we get all the love language for direction and understanding. Because 9 out of 10, mom is always the one giving directions. But we have to have that, because when we have people that don't listen to instructions, don't have understanding, don't pay attention, how can we pass something down to them? Amen, somebody. Don't miss it. Y'all know Elisha, right? Elijah tells Elisha, if you want what I have, here's what you need to do. We have to be ready, willing, and able to teach individuals. It's time out for us telling all the time, what does the discipline say? What does the discipline say? No, I need you to teach people how to do this ministry. Teach people how to walk in this way. Teach individuals how to show kindness, how to show mercy, how to plan budgets, how to lay out an expenditure. Teach people how to do things so that they can understand how to do the work and ministry you put them over. And it's interesting that all that is put out in the instruction, in the paying attention, the understanding, don't forget the teaching. Because how many times do we look up and we know people who are in positions and they don't know what they're doing? Hello, is there a witness in the building? Amen, somebody. I met a young lady ago. I was doing a workshop at a conference, and as I was doing a workshop at a conference and telling how it was very important to have people to have a spiritual gifts test, who know that they're in the right setting for the ministry, they're doing the right work and got what God has called them to do. A young lady came to me after service and everything, and she says, Pastor Miller, I am so grateful for your teaching. She says, but I have a problem. I said, well, what's the problem? She says to me, the problem is I've been placed in a position, and like you said, I don't know what I'm doing. Honestly, brother, I don't even want the position anymore. But they just keep giving it back to me. I told everybody I think I can tell that I don't want the position. But they just keep asking me, we'll just hold on to it one more year until we find somebody. She said, Pastor Miller, I've been in this position 3 years now. Can you imagine that someone is assigned to a ministry in your local church who really doesn't want the position? They haven't been trained or mentored into the position. They can admit that they don't know what they are doing. And so it's at the point of burnout. They're just tired. And so they tell the powers that be, hey, I no longer want this position. I can't do it. And they're giving the position back. But yet they don't address situations like that. People continue to serve in positions that they don't want to be in. Therefore, the position is ineffective and they're not yielding any results. Wow. See, some of y'all sitting back right now like, wow, I'm thinking about my own local church setting or things that I've seen myself, individuals who have been in positions, but yet work is not being done. Why? Because they don't even want to be there anymore. Well, also understand this. That's the Old Testament. Well, New Testament gives us a great one. 1 Corinthians chapter 1. 1 Corinthians chapter 1. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 1 through 9. Now, I'm not going to read that one in its entirety, but this is where Paul is speaking. When he tells people, some people follow Paul, some people follow Apollos in his writings. And he has to tell the people at the end of the day, it's like I'm raising infants, y'all not ready for solid food yet. He uses the words, do not think worldly, talks about jealousy, people quarreling, all people being assigned. And he says, one plant, one water, but it's God that makes it grow. Oh my goodness, I'm excited about that. I know there's a couple of preachers on here. You probably preached that text many a time. When you are mentoring people, guess what? Sometimes in mentoring, you come across individuals, your mentees, who you are mentoring, and they will tell you, I've never done like this before. My mama said you should do it like this. My daddy said do it like this. Big mama said, anybody ever been there before? Go ahead and throw your hand in the air and wave like you just don't care. Where you didn't take the advice of somebody else because of what mama and them taught you. what mama and them told you to do. So you figured, well, if they told me to do it this way, I'm going to continue doing it the same way and yielding the exact same results. And it amazed me. I remember a function that took place at a particular church I served as pastor. I was at the church for a number of years, and I got there, and the function they had, the attendance was low. Very low attendance. And I said to the individual, wow, like, where's everybody at? And they began to tell me, oh, well, Pastor Miller, you should have been here in heyday, like 30 years ago. This fellowship hall was full of people. We barely had room for people to sit. It was packed. I said, okay, well, now you got 10 people here. And that's counting me, my wife, and at least my son. No, we don't know, people don't want to come out no more, this and that. I said, have you changing the date? Moving the time? Oh no, we've been having it like this for years. This is the date we have to have it. So you have to have it on this particular date at this. So you can't move it from April the 12th to March the 15th. You can't move it from 2:00 on a Saturday afternoon to a different day and time. You have to have it at this date and time. But see, that's the issue and the problem, because some people are stuck in traditionalism where changing and adjustments are something that they don't want to do. Everybody needs to change. Adjustments need to take place. And we have to realize as pastors and as leaders that we're raising infants. And since we are raising infants, sometimes they're not ready for solid food. They're not ready to grow and expand their mind. They think too worldly about things. But one of the things you always have to realize is that when we're doing that, we have to mentor people. We have to bring in a group of individuals who have like creative minds, who are ready to do some great work, great ministry, and do it for the Lord. They're not really concerned about set dates and times. The only thing that concerns them is, how can I get the glory of God in this place? What can I do to please God? How can I get behind someone who feels that they can't do anything? And I can begin to mentor them to do greatness. Oftentimes as pastors, I've heard pastors say, Pastor Miller, I can't get anybody in the church to do anything. Therefore, I find myself doing everything. Well, here's the problem. Your job is not to get people to do stuff. Our job is to mentor people into doing things. Oh my goodness. I wish I had time to shout right there. That's a shout moment. Is to mentor people into doing work in ministry, because oftentimes people have the wrong concept as what the ministry is. Because if the ministry at your local church has always been focused on money, that's the only thing they're all going to see. First thing popping in mind. Will you be over the usher board? No, because we have to raise that money on usher day. Will you be a trustee? No, because we got to raise this money for this and that. But imagine if you began to mentor people and say, would you mind doing this ministry? Here's what the ministry does. Not about the money, the ministry. And look, don't let your mentorship be solely based on the age bracket. Everybody can be mentored. You can pull in mentees to do great work and great ministry. Some of the things I want us to focus on, you have to have authentic leadership. If you have authentic leadership, it will be easier for you to mentor individuals. It's easy to mentor individuals with authentic leadership because they know you are true, and they know that whatever you're doing it to guide them in the right direction. You don't want to lead them off a cliff. However, you want to teach them how to climb the mountain. And as mentees that we have to be transparent to them. Yes, we have to be transparent. If you are a mentor, don't be afraid to tell a mentee where you messed up at. Don't be afraid to tell a mentee about the hiccups you had. Don't be afraid to tell a mentee about some of the failures, some of the setbacks you've had before in your life and doing this work in this ministry, because that's vitally important. It's important because oftentimes mentees will say, Yeah, I don't want to do that because I saw what happened when Sister Sue was doing it, and she always seemed mad, angry, and bitter. I don't want to do it because there's too much negativity tied behind it. I don't want to do it because I don't want to be chasing people down. Well, as a mentor to your mentee, you want to tell them, look, here's the ministry which I do. Here can be some challenges. Here is how I do it. But however, you may have a better way, a better mentality, a better mindset in doing it to accomplish your goal. Then we have to be intentional. When you have intentionality as being a mentor, then you intentionally, and when you work with a mentee, as you work with someone, you intentionally allow them to be creative. Warren, you have great ideas. You have something that you've been doing that's been working well for the past 10, 15 years. But if they come in and say, hey, have you tried to do it this way? There is a different way of doing it. You can be intentional about that work. For example, when I was intentional about getting to each church I pastored, now here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, we have assigned and appointed junior trustees and junior stewards. Do you know what they do as junior trustees and junior stewards? The junior trustees sit in on our trustee meetings. Now, we don't have them in the evening. We do them, the bigger trustee meetings that we have in the evening with the trustees are during the week. So, of course, our junior trustees, they have school. But every now and again, I call a meeting on Sunday morning after church. Sit down with the trustees and the junior trustees and say, hey, here's some work that needs to be done. What are your thoughts on it? We have to, whether be changing out the ceiling tiles, getting some new light fixtures, and they have buy-in to say, oh, wow, I had some input. Junior stewards, they actually go back in the counting room with the stewards, and they help them, assist them and count money. Starting them off counting the change. Then they move on up to count monies, to cross-check, to double-check, whatever it is they counting. No, we don't send them all in at the same time. We like the ones like to go in there who don't mind to sit down and say, okay, here's the work that a steward does. And they are excited about it. Junior trustees, yes, they clean the church. They don't mind taking the garbage out, putting it in the trash bin and rolling to the curb. That's a duty of a trustee. Don't miss, let me repeat that. That is the duty of the trustee. Trustees somewhere along the line begin to think that their duty was to count the money and write checks. Actually, a trustee's duty is to actually take care of the property and clean up the church. Amen, somebody. Okay. Mentorship is important. Be a risk taker. Be risky. Step out on faith with some of these young people who want to do work in ministry. And if it's something they want to do to help raise funds to do a ministry at the local church, whether it be a feeding or clothing or a coat drive, step out on faith. Hear what they're saying. Hear what they like to have do. Look, also, you want to do this. When you risk things, don't be afraid to make change. Mentors, if you want to mentee, you want to mentor someone into taking a position or working alongside you, don't be afraid to make change. Be willing to think outside the box, and remember, you got to be creative. James Ryle said this poem, and some of you may have known it. It says, healthy things grow, and growing things change. Change challenges us. Challenge forces us to trust God. Trust leads to obedience. Obedience makes us healthy because healthy things grow. And growing things change. Change challenges us. Challenge forces us to trust God. Trust leads to obedience. Obedience makes us healthy. And healthy things grow because growing things change. Change challenges us. Change forces us to trust God. Trust leads to obedience. Obedience makes us healthy. And healthy things grow. Because what? Growing things change. Look, anytime you want to do that and you do the work in the ministry and mentoring someone, remember, people who you pull under your wing and say, hey, let me show you something. Do you know what that feels like? That's an exciting thing. That someone's saying, hey, I've been trusting in you. Just, hey, if it's something that you want to do, hey, take a crack at it. I won't be mad if you decide you don't want to be president of missionaries. That's okay with me. I won't be mad if you don't want to be over the yams anymore. That's cool. but at least I'm trying to get somebody to learn this process. We have a lot of people right now in the life of the church that have been holding on holding on to positions for as long as even they can remember. Because we have to be honest, there are some people that don't want to give up their position. Pause, 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 pause. There are some people who don't want to give up positions. Well, here's the thing. To individuals that don't want to give up position, let me break this down by David Shannon. There's a difference between servants and volunteers and what you want in the life of the church. What you want in the life of the church, you want servants, not volunteers. Volunteers usually serve with less commitment than servants do. They often need to fit their volunteer hours around other priorities in their lives. Volunteers generally view their work as a gift to the organization. Rarely do they not feel that appreciation is due them. After all, they have given all their time instead of being compensated. Volunteers usually have lower expectations placed on them because they are free to go at any time. God doesn't call us to volunteer, but to serve. Servants are committed, totally committed. By this we know love because he laid down his life for us. And we also ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. 1 John chapter 3, verse 16. Servants make sure God is first in all areas of their life. God is first, second, third. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward, it is the Lord Christ Jesus whom you are serving. Colossians 3, verse 23 and 24. Servants do not see their work as a gift that deserves gratitude, but instead they understand it is their duty. Question: in the life of the church where you are, whether you are a member of the local church, whether you're a pastor of the church, or whether you just one of the officers in the church, are there mostly servants or volunteers in your church setting? Well, when we look at those things, with the servanthood, instead of expecting appreciation, servants are thankful for the opportunity, recognizing it as a grace. Paul understood. He considered me trustworthy, appointing me to his service, even though I was a blasphemer and a persecutor and a violent man. 1 Timothy 1 and 12. A servant's voice isn't motivated by self-promoting or glory. A servant's service is accomplished through obedience to the master, who knows our purpose and has work for us to do. Don't you know that God has plans for you and for me? And that is that we are meant to mentor people. We are servants, and someone has to follow behind us along the way. It's amazing to me how so many people believe that the ministry is only going forward because they are there. Let me repeat that. It amazes me how sometimes people believe that the ministry can only go forward because they are there. And they actually believe if I'm not there, the ministry won't go forward. And sometimes I can get mad and tell people, well, I'm just not going to show up. Let's see how they get it done. Well, if you are a mentor and you have a mentee, someone you're leading, guiding, and directing and helping along the way, you can tell your mentee, hey, this one's on you. I won't be able to make it, but I know it's in your hands. And I know everything will turn out just right. We have to, and when we have mentees, we have to have people who are prepared, dedicated to serve with excellence. They have no excuses. They are confident, and they are change agents. Change agents. You know, as I said, healthy things grow, and growing things indeed do change. But you want to make sure that whatever you do as a mentor, that is contagious. It's got to be contagious. You ever heard of people that had an infectious spirit? It is contagious. Because when you are around individuals, people get excited to do work for you. People rally behind in all the work that you do. Well, as a mentor, if you have a mentee that can get as contagious as you are and have a love to do ministry as you do, imagine the change that can take place. Because guess what? They'll be able to reach a generation you might not be able to tap into. They'll be able to talk to individuals whom you didn't think that you could be able to work with. When you mentor somebody and do it in the right way, and I don't miss it, I don't want to miss it. I don't want to seem as if I'm not addressing them. Address this now. There are some bad mentors out there. There really is. There are some people out there that will lead and guide you down in a hole. As the old saying goes, it's one thing for the sighted to lead the blind, but it's another thing for the blind to lead the sighted. So we have to make sure that we're able to discern who means best to us in mentoring us and telling us how to address issues, address problems, how to make adjustments and make changes. Because some people are angry and they act out of bitterness, and they indeed do pass it down to the person coming behind them. So we have to make sure that whatever contagious spirit we have, it's a good contagious spirit. We have to teach people that there are different denominations. Indeed, oftentimes when we do work in ministry, I partner with other churches. That's all about mentoring. You can't be inside a box and think it's all about your church. Yeah, your church might be rocking and rolling a little bit, but guess what? What if you took your rocking and rolling down to another church that was doing country? Well, now we got rock and roll and country together. Let's pull these things together. It's amazing because when you mentor and you cross those lines, what's going to happen? Some of you may know or may not realize one of the number one country songs in the world for a time period was by a black country rapper singer. I mean, that by itself, you know what I'm saying? But you can mentor individuals, and you yourself can be mentored and get mentees just by crossing denominational lines. You'd be surprised on how many people at the Baptist church, the Pentecostal church, the evangelical church, the Catholic church would love to work with you. And as the saying goes, iron sharpens iron, where we can get ideas from to blossom and our churches can grow. And as you do those things, you have to understand this, finally, is that you have to understand that this is not just a moment, it's a movement. We have to move from where we are to where God has for us to be. And that is putting other people in place to follow behind us once we leave. And they may not do it the same way we do. They may have it better, but our job is to encourage and mentor them. We have to be game changers. We have to build young leaders, and we have to understand that we have to do it for the vine. Say what? Do it for the vine? Because Jesus says, I am the vine and you are the branches. Whatever does not belong, Jesus says, I got to prune, I got to cut off, I got to get rid of. And so that's what we have to do as mentors, and building up mentees and helping them understand that the ministry is all about him and not about us. So question, are any question out there? Any questions at all? I don't think I can hear any audio. Can I hear audio? Agnes Lover, I see you. How do you build collaborations with other denominations? That is an excellent question, Doctor. Excellent question. Building collaborations with other denominations can be difficult, and sometimes it can be easy. I've been on the spectrum of both ends of them, because there's been some denominations I have reached out to, and they just weren't receptive. You know, I either didn't hear from the pastor, didn't hear from the lay people, and there was nothing we could do. But I did consistently send out flyers and mailings and letters anytime our local congregation church was doing things. And slowly but surely, you'll end up getting people together. And partnering with the denominations who you can work with, I contact everybody. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Pentecostal, evangelical, I contact them. I've worked with one church out of Hershey, Pennsylvania. It's Dairy Presbyterian Church. Awesome church, awesome ministry. There I was doing some work in our local community. Hershey is probably about 35, 40 minutes away from us, depending on travel. And I met with a pastor there, Caucasian man, a Lutheran church. And we were partnered with doing some work as far as a feeding ministry. And he wanted to assist. What he ended up doing, he either sends a donation or he sends his members down to partner to help us give out food. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me tell you how we ended up getting the feeding ministry. There I was in our local church setting doing some work. Hispanic guy, Pentecostal church pastor came to me, asked me about, worshiping in our facility. And I said, okay. Then he tells me, hey, pastor, I have some food. Would you mind if we did like a feeding ministry at the church? No problem at all whatsoever. And watch this. Ask me how much I charge the church to use our facility. Zero, not one dime. A lot of times churches get in the mindset that when someone is using our building, we got to charge them to use the building, but we don't see how the end justifies the means. But there's a greater work out there. By getting this gentleman come in to connect us with another gentleman to do some food distribution. Do you know that Wesley Union AME Zion Church in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, has given out over 500,000 pounds of food? Over 500,000 pounds, 500,000 pounds of food we have given away. And it's free. Free food. And it worked out. The tractor trailer comes down the neighborhood. And when I look up the people wrapped around the building, they black, white, everybody is coming. And what does that do? That builds up relationship. And then while we're there, this other gentleman, a Kojic brother, he comes, hey, Pastor Miller, do you mind if I help? Not at all. He's bringing people over to help. A gentleman comes up to me and he's looking for a place to do some work at. We got a radio station at our church now. The gentleman that comes to do a radio station, he's not Baptist, he ain't Methodist, he's Pentecostal, he's non-denominational. He comes in, he just needed a spot. He set up the radio station in an open room in our church, opened up a ministry. So it's a Christian-based radio station, podcast. So pastors of all denominations come in and out of our church on a regular basis. And they always say, oh, here's the pastor. And we're always collectively doing work together. And once you build those collaborations, look, pastors, lay folk, don't be afraid to invite a European brother or sister to your church to preach at your church. It builds partnership and relationships. It is a great thing. As I've been building partnerships and relationships, you know that we helped give out over 2,000 toys for Christmas by building partnerships. The gentleman that had him had too many, and he calls me up. Okay, it's always have yourself available to do some work in ministry, and you'll see that God builds this thing up. But definitely a social media presence is key. Some communities have a directory that has a list of the churches in the directory in your community. I say definitely reach out to them when you can. They help build by building up partnerships as well. Does your father and mother in ministry have to be your mentor? No, your father and mother in ministry, they do not necessarily, they don't have to be your mentors. And I say that because within the Zion churches, we know itinerancy is there. So you may start your ministry under one individual, and then you may get a new pastor within 6 months to a year. So now you have someone else. I would encourage ministers, you can have multiple mentors. Myself, I have multiple mentors. I've called the names of a couple of them, a couple of going on to glory, the Reverend William Gullick, Reverend Kenneth Quentin James, then some are still yet here with us, who I call and bounce stuff off of. And it's good to have multiple mentors because sometimes you may have something going on and you want to respond or you want to address, and your mentor you can't get, okay? So you can reach out to other mentors who you can trust. For pastors, I say you can have at least between 3 to 5 people who know you can trust and someone you can bounce different ideas off of and dealing with and handling with situations. I think it's key and important that you have individuals for that. That way you don't put yourself in a situation. But like I said, you want to have mentors who are true and honest to you. One of my mentors, to God be the glory, Reverend William Gullick, he's going on to glory now. My first church I pastored, I had a situation I was dealing with at the church, and some of the members, and we was going to have a members meeting. And I was telling him, I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in, I'm going to do this and that. And he tells me, he said, don't do it. I said, no, I got to do it. He said, no. He says, I'm telling you not to do it because that's what I did when I pastored the church. He said, and that made matters worse. He said, pray about it and then think about doing it this way. Do you know, I walked into that meeting with the members of the church. And once I got in there, was talking to, and you could see that they came in, they were ready for it. They were ready for a fight. They were ready, and I came in and talked to them. And when they was explaining to me something, because I made a transition, a shift at the church that they didn't necessarily like. And so they were upset by it. And as I listened to them, now my mindset mentality was to go in and say, well, look, I'm the pastor. I can do what I want to do. And my mentor said, no, don't do that. This is what you tell them. I got in there. They was ready going. And as they began to talk and discuss and back and forth, I told them, I apologize. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm new in pastoring. I thought, bam, bam, bam. Do you know the shift took place in that room like none other? And the member who had the biggest contention with me on that transition I made stood up and said, you are the first pastor to say that. And the whole place got quiet. And they said, now we understand. And we sat down. And don't you know, it was just smooth sailing. But they was just like, oh, man. Wow. A pastor said he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't say, well, look, I'm the pastor. Hey, he didn't jump up and down. He didn't run and grab the discipline and say, look, I got my discipline and I'm the pastor and this is what it said. He didn't do any of that. All I said was, I'm sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought it was a good idea. And then they said, oh, well, yeah, pastor, I wish you would have talked to us about it first. Cool. Turned everything around during that meeting. So yeah, it's good to have more than one mentor. So anybody else got any more questions? Yeah, true. More pastors need to have well, yeah, they do need to have some temperament. Yeah, my temperament, yeah. Well, I'm here to tell you, Sister Robertson, I've grown into it. I've grown into it. That's for sure. And you know what? That's one of the good things I'll tell all pastors. And let me say this: not just the pastors and ministers, but also lay people. So if there are lay people watching who are non-pastors, I would encourage lay people to get the opportunity to try to build a connection with a pastor. And one of the things you can say, hey, pastor, I'm not here to hurt you. We are here to help and support you. In essence, where if there's ever anything that's coming up that we think that it's a bad idea, or if it's something that you have, before you present it to everybody else, can you present it to us first? And read the Bible. And oftentimes we may have leaders in the church, and there are people who are on our boards, our stewards, our trustees, and whatnot. But y'all do realize the leaders of your church aren't the ones on your trustee, steward, and deacon board. Leaders of the church are the senior saints in the church, who oftentimes are quiet, but they have a lot of pull and influence. And they love to see people coming in making room for gifts for young people. One of my great successes at Church Lord's Blesses, we've had young people. And when they began to put them in place, when I made junior trustees and junior stewards at the church, I'll go back to this and come back to answer questions. That I'm being transparent with you, not gonna lie to you. There was some pushback. There were some people like, oh man, like, what you doing all these young people? We got these young people. But then we had an event at the church. Some of the same trustees were like, I don't know about these young people. Have them on the trustee board. This one say they got to be 21. Like, well, yeah, this one does say that. However, they're junior trustees in learning. And lo and behold, we had that event in our church, and it was downstairs in the fellowship hall. And as we all know, once the food is done, somebody got to clean up. So some of my same trustees that were older were like, oh, we got to carry these trash cans upstairs. And I said, why don't you ask the junior trustees? Yeah, Rev, that's a good idea. Let's get these young people in here. Y'all come on and take these trash bags up there. I didn't say I told you so. I didn't tell them I was right. I just said, why don't you get the young people? And you know what they turned around and say? They said, man, we so glad we got these young people, these young trustees running around. We glad we got them to do stuff. Excited. Mentorship, mentoring people. Yes, all trustees need to watch the temperament and be careful how they approach ministers and lay people alike. That is true. That is true. We always have to be careful and be mindful. The word is called tact. How to approach people, what to say to them, and how to say it. Because sometimes people may not take what you have to say in the right tone or right manner. So a lot of times, it's about timing. And when you become someone's mentor or like to be mentored, it really is an invitation. I would encourage people to ask people, do you mind if I'm your mentor? Because there's some things I believe I can help you with. And there's some things that you might be able to help me with. So let's help one another. Let's partner together and see what comes of this. When we are mentoring individuals, look at the people in your local church settings now. And don't get me wrong, I love seniors. I love seniors. I owe a lot of my teaching and learning from my grandmother. And guess what? I'm going to be a senior one day. I had to remind people before. I'm older now. And I said that before the church conference, and people said, no, you ain't older, you're a young man. I said, the moment I quit getting invitations to do youth revivals, that let me know I'm older. I don't get the youth revivals no more. But I encourage people to have individuals who you can go to, who you can share with, who you can bounce ideas off with. And as I was saying, those in your local church setting, look at your officers, look at your leaders, look at the individuals who hold positions in your church. The missionary, the person over Yakum is 65, 70 years old just to have a position. Your director of Christian education is 82, 83. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the question is, are they up to the task to carry on the work? Who's behind them? If the director of Christian education is 85, and I pray, Lord bless me to get that, at least be that old, and the person behind them taking position is 77. It's like, wow, God forbid if something happened, but who you have in place? Who are you mentoring? Who you have come behind them to say, hey, now it is yours. I've been doing this work long enough. And let me say this. Just because you pass down a position or a title to somebody, look, that don't mean you still can't do anything in the life of the church. You just kind of step back and say, woof. At one particular church I pastored, I remember it greatly. It was one lady that did the announcements every Sunday. Every Sunday she did the announcement. Came in and I got someone else to help. And she began to mentor these young people, not just one young lady, but young men and women, young high school, and doing it. Well, the word went around in the church that Reverend Miller was changing stuff all the time. And he's, because I was new at this particular assignment, and he's changing it up. And now he's moving Sister So-and-so from her position. And she gave announcements so beautifully every single Sunday. Tell you what the blessing was. As that got out, little scuttlebug, Reverend Miller is just so progressive. He's moving too fast for us. The lady that was the announcer giving the announcements on Sunday stood up that particular Sunday and said, I am so glad Reverend Miller here, because now he's getting other people in place, so I don't have to get up here every Sunday morning. I'm tired, y'all. And it was like, wow. So all the naysayers, it was saying, she was like, I'm tired. I do this every Sunday. Let these young people do it. It's great when you have mentors and mentees who are endorsing the work. There are other people. Look, there are people that want to do work as well. Are you accepting any new mentees? Yes, I am. I do accept new mentees. If you're interested and connecting with me, and like I said, it's good to have more than just one mentor. It's good someone you can look and bounce ideas off of. If you're looking for somebody, you say, hey, I just want to bounce some ideas off somebody here and there, shoot me an email, wesleyunionpastor@gmail.com. Once again, that's wesleyunionpastor@gmail.com. Type it in the chat. Yeah. So you can email me and we can bounce some ideas off back and forth. And definitely, whether it's an idea, and maybe you want to bounce some sermon ideas off. That's what mentors are for. And not that we are preachers, that we're the greatest preachers, but we have people coming behind us and we want to help lead, guide, and direct them. I'm thankful for the mentees, the mentors I had to help me out with a whole lot of stuff. I don't believe I'm the world's greatest pastor. I don't believe I'm the world's greatest preacher, but I do believe I had some great mentors that stopped me from going down a path, saying the wrong thing in the meeting, trying to strong arm something, stopped me from holding up the piece of paper, say, look, I is the pastor. Great mentors, that's what they do. But not only for pastors, but also missionaries, for young adults in Christian society, Christian education directors, ushers, everybody. Because I don't know if you realize it, if you looked around, our churches are not getting any younger. They are indeed getting older. Say what? Yes, indeed. Are there any more questions? Any more questions on my PowerPoint? For some reason, my computer's been acting up as recently as of yesterday. So I was not able to do the full screen share. I was hoping to. It got stuck right there with that little email. But I can send the email out. Well, I've sent the email out, so Reverend Womack has it, and it can be shared with everyone doing with that. Any more questions or concerns at all whatsoever? And if there be not any, thank you all so much for joining. Helen Robinson, you are from Flint. Praying for Flint. Pray that the water all gets clean that you all need to get clean up there if it's not already clean. I see Reverend Dwayne Chapman. Thank you all so much for joining. Reverend, who's that? Nicole Harris, thank you so much for joining. Yes. Thank you all so much. Lavon Gray, thank you so much for joining. Everyone else who's out there listening. Clara Pope, Ricky McElroy, Alfreda Owens, I'm sorry. Agnes Lover. This is Agnes Lover from Alabama. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes. Yeah, when you're trying to make a shift from volunteering to servanthood, it is a tough task. It is tough. I've dealt with that. The mentality sometimes, because now people have so much to do. You gotta, as pastors and leaders, well, you don't have to be a pastor. If you're over a ministry at your church, you got to deal with AAU basketball, date nights, going out to the park, picnics, everything else is, is out there that stops people from being committed and being servants. However, that's one of the great things about mentoring individuals. If you get the right people to mentor and have a mentee, it's easy for them to pass the work down to someone else, because all they do then as mentors, they show them how to plan it. They show them how to line it up, and they trust that if I'm not here, this person can handle it. As pastor of a church, I didn't mentor the ministers at my church. They were already there, but I know that if I'm ever out of town preaching, I know they can handle it. That's just the bottom line. They know what to do. They know how to carry out service. They can do those things. And so what we have to do is, as mentors, we get someone who is strong and confident in what they can and cannot do, and that can help leading God to servanthood. Because guess what? Some people, believe it or not, there are still people in our churches that do not need or want a title. They just want to do the work. I just want to do the ministry. I don't need to be the head of the missionaries. I don't need to be the head of the usher board. I see what needs to be done, and I can do it. That's what mentorship is all about. We don't need titles. If I'm mentoring, I don't need no title. I don't need to pay. I don't need to praise. I'm doing everything for the glory of God. If you got AAU this weekend, that's fine. I got it. We don't need to move the date because you can't be there. That's just the bottom line. The work can still get done. So that's one of the things. Trust. I know it can be difficult, but it's possible. It indeed is possible. The servanthood mentality. Any other questions? Jermaine Richardson, hello. Thank you for joining. I believe that's all on my part. I think it's time for our session to close out. I think it was scheduled to close at 4:45, but I'm letting you out early because I know some other sessions that you probably want to chime into. Once again, thank you for joining. Thank you. May God bless you. Heaven smile upon you. Dr. Agnes Lover is my classmate down in Alabama, who is doing a great work and great ministry down there. She has pastored historic churches in her time. I know she didn't ask me to say all this, but she can't tell me to stop. Only thing she can do is type and tell me to stop, but she can't. If you ever go down to Alabama, right outside, I'll be right outside of Birmingham, a little bit outside of Birmingham. She had to take you down to a nice seafood restaurant called the Fantail. You will absolutely love it. All you can eat. I got sick. I ate so much down there. But contact Reverend Agnes Lover if you could. A great person I think would be good for you. Both of you all to connect with is Reverend Nicole Harris, who's up in Schenectady, New York. Did I say it right, Nicole? Good, I said it right. But definitely, that's a great partnership. But may God bless you all. Heaven smile upon you. And if you need anything from me, let me know. Let's see, Agnes, I'll be back there. Oh, so Chuck Williams says, Agnes, I will be back there and I will look for you. Yes, Agnes Lover. And she has the tall task. Agnes Lover had, I believe, I'm correct, Agnes, every church she has pastored, she has been the first female pastor in the church's history. And she has done groundbreaking work at each church she has arrived to. A phenomenal woman of God. And I mirror my bishop when I say prayerfully we'll get to the point one day where gender is not placed on the pastors. Oh, they got a female pastor, male pastor is like, no, they got a pastor. She is a great person, does great work. Reverend Dr. Agnes Lover is my classmate from United Theological Seminary. Once again, thank you all so much. God bless you and heaven smile upon each of you.